Dad, perfect revenge. Who did this to you? I'm standing next to my daughter's hospital bed, gripping that cold metal rail so tight my knuckles went white. Michelle's lying there looking like she hasn't slept in weeks. The lights are buzzing overhead and that hospital smell is everywhere. But what I'm looking at isn't cuts or bruises. It's something worse. Complete financial devastation. Let me back up. I'm Carl Mitchell, 67 years old. Spent 25 years in Navy intelligence before I retired. Thought I'd seen everything. But seeing my own daughter destroyed like this, that hit different. Michelle's voice cracked when she finally got the words out. Dad, it's Trevor. He took everything. The savings, Rebecca's college fund, even Mom's wedding ring. Found out he's been gambling it all away for months. When I confronted him about it, she couldn't finish the sentence. Right then, all the shock and worry I felt walking into that room just drained away. Got replaced by something colder, something more calculated. Very well, I said real quiet. They just made the biggest mistake of their lives. Her eyes went wide. Dad, no. You don't understand. They'll hurt you. They'll hurt Rebecca. Please, just stay away. I leaned over and touched her hand. Trust me, sweetheart. I'm not the man they think I am. See, here's what happened. 6 months ago, my stepson Bradley pulled a fast one on me. Got me to sign some power of attorney papers. Said it was just safety stuff from my golden years. I was stupid. Trusted him. Next thing I know, I'm locked up in Crestwood Meadows nursing home while he's bleeding my accounts dry, paying for the place. But I wasn't helpless, just waiting for the right moment. The call about Michelle came at 6:15 in the morning. Hospital said she'd had a nervous breakdown from financial stress. But I knew better. These things don't just happen overnight. Getting out of Crestwood wasn't going to be simple. Bradley made sure of that. But I still had one card to play. Called up Dr. Kevin Walsh, Chief of Staff at Central Hospital. We served together on a medical mission in Afghanistan back in '98. Some favors don't expire. Kevin, it's Carl Mitchell. Need you to get me out of this place. My daughter's in your ER, and I know this isn't just stress. Kevin didn't ask questions. He remembered the night I helped extract his medical team from a firefight. Emergency specialist consult, he said. I'll make it official. 30 minutes. When the hospital transport showed up, the Crestwood manager started waving my admission papers around. Transport nurse just handed him Kevin's official request form. I walked right past him, with nothing but my wallet and the clothes on my back. Now here I am at Michelle's bedside, listening to the whole story come out. Trevor Johnson, 42 years old, been married to my daughter for 5 years. Seemed decent enough at first. Worked as a mechanic. Said he wanted to provide for the family. Turns out he'd been hiding a gambling problem the whole time. Michelle told me everything. Late nights at poker games, money disappearing from their joint accounts, lies about working overtime when he was really at the casino. When she finally got suspicious and checked their finances, she found out he'd cleaned them out completely. $75,000 from their savings account, $30,000 from Rebecca's college fund, even pawned my late wife's wedding ring. But the worst part was his family. His mother, Susan, treats Michelle like a servant. His sister, Jennifer, cuts her down every chance she gets. And Jennifer's kid, Nathan, makes my granddaughter Rebecca's life hell. Then, Michelle told me something interesting. About a year ago, she overheard Susan arguing on the phone about some trust fund. Something about money Trevor's father left that was hidden offshore. Susan said Trevor didn't even know about it. I filed that away. Might be useful later. Looking down at my daughter lying in that hospital bed, I made my decision. You're staying here. Doctor will keep you for observation. You're safe. I'm going to your house. Dad, no. They'll hurt you. Trevor's about to learn what happens when you mess with the wrong family. The address led me to a 2-story house in a working-class neighborhood. Looked normal enough from outside. But when I opened the front door, the smell hit me first. Stale beer, old food, something sour. Living room was a disaster. Pizza boxes stacked everywhere. Dirty dishes on every surface. Carpet stained with who knows what. 2 women sprawled on a beat-up sofa watching reality TV. The older one, heavy-set with dyed blonde hair, barely looked at me. That was Susan. The younger one didn't look up at all. Jennifer. Oh, it's you, Susan said flat. Michelle's not here. Kitchen's a mess. Make yourself useful. I set my bag down and didn't say anything. Then I heard it. a small, choked sob from somewhere deeper in the house. Followed the sound to a little room off the kitchen. Inside, sitting on the floor in the corner, was Rebecca. 10 years old, pale skin, dark circles under her eyes. She was holding a headless doll. "Rebecca, sweetheart," I said real soft. Before she could answer, this kid burst into the room. Nathan, maybe 12 years old, big for his age with a mean look. He saw Rebecca and grinned. "Hey, stupid, still crying?" He grabbed the doll from her hands. Rebecca made a helpless sound but didn't fight back. "This piece of junk?" Nathan held up the doll, laughing. Started twisting the remaining arm like he was going to rip it off. That's when I moved. 25 years of Navy training don't just disappear. I grabbed Nathan's wrist in a pain hold, just enough pressure to make him drop the doll without hurting him. "We don't steal from little girls," I said, quiet. Nathan started wailing, and that brought the women running. Jennifer burst in, face all twisted up with rage. "Get off my son!" She came at me with her nails out like claws. I stepped aside easy and caught her wrist, pressed, on a nerve point. Her hand went numb, and she dropped to her knees. "You're showing me your moves before you make them," I told her, calm as anything. Susan showed up with a fireplace poker, swinging it at my head. I took it away from her without breaking a sweat, then bent that iron poker at a 45-degree angle using the stone mantle. Sound of that metal twisting froze them both. "This house has new management now," I said. "Rule 1, you don't touch Rebecca. Rule 2, you don't touch me. Rule 3, this place is a health hazard. Jennifer, you're cleaning floors. Susan, you're washing dishes. Nathan, you sit in that chair and don't move." Nathan opened his mouth to argue. I looked at him. He shut it. Spent the next couple hours getting things sorted. Gave Rebecca a proper bath. Found her some clean clothes. Made up a real bed in what used to be a storage room. She didn't say a word the whole time. Just watched me with those big scared eyes. Around 6 p.m., Susan came in with a package of ground beef that was gray around the edges. Smelled off. "Make dinner," she said, dropping it on the counter with this nasty smile. I looked at that spoiled meat, separated out a small clean piece for Rebecca and me. Rest of it went into a skillet where I dumped about half a bottle of ghost pepper hot sauce. Stuff was like liquid fire. Called them to dinner at 7. They loaded up their plates with those sloppy joes, all smug and happy with themselves. I served Rebecca and myself from the clean pan. Susan took the first big bite. Jennifer and Nathan followed right after. Dead silence for about 3 seconds. Then Susan's face went bright red. Jennifer started choking. Nathan made a sound like someone was killing him. They rushed the sink, pushing each other out of the way, drinking water straight from the faucet. Nathan was crying. Jennifer was gagging like she might throw up. I took a nice calm bite of my dinner. "Something wrong? Too spicy for you?" They couldn't even answer, just standing there with tears streaming down their faces. "Rule 4, I said. "Don't waste food." I was awake when Trevor came home that night. Heard his car first. Engine running rough, brakes squealing, then heavy footsteps, uneven like he was drunk. Front door didn't open, got kicked in. "Michelle!" His voice was thick and slurred. "Get me a beer." He staggered in, about 6 feet tall, broad shoulders but running to fat. Shirt untucked, tie hanging crooked, face all red and puffy. Reeked of whiskey and cigarettes. He saw me and stopped. Squinted like he was trying to focus. "Who the hell are you?" "I'm the babysitter," I said. His face got dark. "You're that old man Michelle's always whining about. Her father." He took a step toward me. "Get out of my house." "No." He wasn't used to hearing that word. Came at me fast for a drunk guy, throwing a wild backhand at my head. I stepped inside the swing, moving toward him instead of away. His fist went right over my shoulder, used his own weight. Against him, hands on his arm and chest, guided him forward and down. He went flying over the coffee table, which collapsed under him with a loud crash. He laid there for a second, stunned. Then he roared like an animal and came at me again, arms out trying to grab me. I stepped aside and drove my elbow hard into his solar plexus. Air exploded out of his lungs and he dropped to his hands and knees, choking. "You know," I said like we were having a normal conversation, "my daughter never fought back. Maybe she thought you'd change. But I don't have those kind of hopes." While he was still gasping, I grabbed a handful of his hair and marched him down the hall to the guest bathroom. Place was disgusting. Toilet hadn't been flushed, crusted with filth, stained brown and yellow. Smell was overwhelming. I shoved his face toward it. "You like this? You like making people live in filth?" He tried to pull back but couldn't breathe right. Couldn't get leverage. "This is your house, Trevor. Your mess. Look at what you made." I reached over and flushed the toilet. Water splashed up on his face. He screamed, or tried to. Came out as a choked gasp. Let him go and stepped back. He scrambled away from the toilet, wiping his face, making sick sounds. I went to the sink, washed my hands real careful. "I'm calling the cops," he said when he could talk again. Voice was all raw. "Go ahead." 15 minutes later, 2 officers showed up. Young one looked nervous. Older one had gray hair and tired eyes. Nameplate said Thompson. When Thompson saw me, his eyes went wide. Holy hell. "Carl Mitchell? You patched up my partner back in '99 when I was with the MPS, Sergeant Thompson. Good to see you again." Trevor was pointing at me with a shaking hand. "He attacked me. Arrest him." I pulled out my phone, showed Thompson the photos I'd taken at the hospital. Michelle's bank statements showing everything drained. Pawn shop receipts for my wife's jewelry. Casino. ATM withdrawals. Thompson's jaw got tight as he looked through the evidence. "Mr. Johnson, did you steal from your wife?" Thompson asked, his voice flat and hard. It's complicated." Thompson's face got even harder. "Mr. Johnson, you're lucky I'm not hauling you in right now, based on this evidence alone. If I come back here, if I see any more proof like this, I'm coming with handcuffs and a warrant. We clear?" Trevor nodded, shaking like a leaf. After they left, Trevor stood in his wrecked living room, looking at me with pure hatred. But he was too scared to try anything. "Go to bed, Trevor. Sleep on your side. You'll breathe easier." He took off upstairs like his tail was on fire. House settled into a new rhythm over the next couple weeks. Tense and brittle, built on fear. Susan stopped barking orders. Jennifer kept her distance. Nathan stayed in his room most of the time. Trevor moved around like a ghost. But I knew this wouldn't last. Fear turns into something more dangerous when it sits too long. Desperation. I was right. 4th morning, Susan showed up in the kitchen while I was making breakfast for Rebecca. Her whole attitude was different, softer, almost apologetic. That's when I knew something was up. "Carl," she said, voice all sweet, "I want to apologize for everything. For how we treated you and Michelle." She wrung her hands like she was really sorry. "I made you some tea. Chamomile, very calming." She held out this delicate china cup with steam rising off it. I took it and caught the scent right away. Chamomile, sure, but underneath was something bitter, chemical. Crushed sleeping pills that weren't dissolved right. "How thoughtful," I said, walking toward the table. Stumbled on purpose, and that scalding tea went flying right onto Jennifer's bare foot as she stood in the doorway. Jennifer screamed, jumping back as the hot liquid hit her skin. "You clumsy old—" "Sorry about that. My hands get shaky sometimes." Susan's fake smile slipped for just a second, showing the real hatred underneath. Then she put the mask back on. That night, I got myself positioned where I could hear them planning. They were in the kitchen, voices low and urgent. "It's the only way," Susan was saying. "Can't have him here anymore. He knows too much. And if he talks to the police again, shows them more evidence, we're done. So what you want me to do?" Trevor's voice was sullen. "You go in first. Knock him out cold. We'll follow with rope and tape. Tie him up, call Crestwood, say he's having a breakdown. And if he fights back, you hit him hard enough that he can't." Dead silence. Then Jennifer spoke up. "What about the kid, Rebecca? She's not going to remember any of this. And if she does, who's going to believe a traumatized 10-year-old? I'd heard enough. Went back to my room and got ready. Found Nathan's aluminum baseball bat in his closet, 30 inches long, lightweight but solid. Stripped the bed and arranged pillows to look like someone sleeping. Then I positioned myself behind the door with the bat, breathing steady. Clock on the nightstand glowed 11:58. I waited. Right at midnight, heard soft footsteps in the hallway. Heavy male steps trying to be quiet. Trevor. Door creaked open slow. Trevor crept toward the bed, moving like he thought he was being sneaky. As he raised his hand to hit what he thought was me, I stepped out and swung that bat hard into the back of his knee. Sharp crack. His leg buckled. While he was falling, I hit him again in the shoulder, targeting the nerve cluster. He went down, stunned and gasping, worked fast. Used the rope they had brought for me to tie him up tight, stuffed a dish towel in his mouth and taped it there. He was awake now, eyes wide with fear and pain, making muffled sounds. Dragged him onto the bed right where I'd been lying a few minutes before. Turned off the lights and got in the corner farthest from the door. Pulled out my phone, opened the camera, started recording, took a deep breath, and screamed. But it wasn't my voice. It was Michelle's voice, the way she must have sounded in this house 100 times. Terrified, broken, pleading. "No, Trevor, stop. Help me." Susan and Jennifer were waiting in the hall with weapons, a golf club and a heavy frying pan. They heard that scream and thought Trevor had me. "He's got her," Susan said, voice sharp with nasty excitement. "Let's finish this." Door burst open. 2 figures rushed in against the hallway light. Susan with the golf club, Jennifer carrying that cast iron pan. They saw the bound figure on the bed, struggling and making sounds behind the gag. They thought it was me. "You old bastard," Jennifer screamed, raising the pan over her head. "This is for everything." Pan came down with brutal force, connecting with Trevor's ribs. The muffled scream behind the gag was pure agony. Susan swung that golf club like she was trying to kill someone, bringing it down on what she thought was me. Once, twice, 3 times, sick sound of metal. Hitting flesh filled the room. Trevor was thrashing, trying to scream through the gag, but they were lost in their rage, in the pure satisfaction of finally hurting the person who'd made them look like fools. I let it go on for 10 more seconds, getting everything on video, the blows, the screams, the savage joy in their voices. Then I reached over and flipped on the light. Sudden brightness was blinding. Susan and Jennifer froze mid-swing, weapons raised, faces twisted with rage and sweat. Slowly, very slowly, they looked down at the figure on the bed. Trevor stared back at them, face bloody and terrified, eyes wide with betrayal and pain. Golf club clattered to the floor. "My God," Susan whispered. "What a family," I said from my corner, holding up my phone so they could see that little red recording light. Got the whole thing on video. Jennifer made a sound like a wounded animal. Susan went gray, then white, then this sick shade of green. I walked over to the landline by the bed and dialed 911. Put on my most shaky old man voice. "Yes, I need police and ambulance. Terrible assault just happened. A mother and sister beat their son nearly to death. They just kept hitting him and hitting him. I tried to stop them, but I'm so frightened. Please hurry." Gave them the address, voice breaking like I was traumatized, and hung up. "Police will be here in about 4 minutes, I told them, conversational. "I suggest you don't run. Only makes things worse." Neither one moved, just stood there staring at Trevor, at what they'd done to their own family member. Sirens got louder. I loosened Trevor's gag just enough so he could breathe proper. He was crying now, soft, broken sobs. "You're gonna be fine," I told him quiet. "Paramedics will fix you up. But you should know, every blow they landed tonight, every second of this, it's all recorded. Whole world's gonna see exactly what kind of people you really are." When Sergeant Thompson arrived with the paramedics, his face was grim. Trevor on a stretcher, face all messed up. Susan and Jennifer in handcuffs, sputtering desperate excuses. "She tricked us. That crazy old man set us up." Thompson watched my video out in the hallway. When it finished, he shook his head slow. "Sir, you just handed me the easiest case I've seen in years." 3 days later, I'm sitting in Michelle's hospital room watching the news. She'd been moved to a regular room, color coming back to her face. TV reporter said Trevor was still in intensive care with broken ribs and internal bleeding. Susan and Jennifer were looking at serious assault charges. "Dad," Michelle said, "what did you do?" "Gave them enough rope to hang themselves, sweetheart." And they took it. My phone buzzed, number I didn't recognize. "Mr. Mitchell, this is Brian Reynolds. I represent Susan Johnson and Jennifer Davis. Wonder if we might discuss some kind of resolution." His voice was tight, professional, but desperate underneath. "I'm listening. The video evidence you have is devastating. Our legal team believes it would be impossible to defend against in court. We'd like to discuss alternatives. What kind of alternatives? Perhaps we could meet somewhere neutral. How about the cardiac ward at Central Hospital tomorrow at 2 p.m.? Mrs. Johnson had a mild heart attack last night. Cardiac ward was quiet when I got there. Susan's room was at the end of the hall, perfect setup. Susan in her hospital bed, oxygen tube in her nose, looking gray and beaten. Jennifer in a chair, eyes all hollow. Trevor in a wheelchair, wrapped up in bandages. They looked like ghosts, broken. Exactly what they'd tried to make Michelle. Lawyer Brian Reynolds stood by the window, sweating despite the cool air. "Mr. Mitchell, thank you for coming. Let's not waste time. What do you want?" I folded my hands, speaking calm and clear. 3 things. First, Trevor signs divorce papers immediately. Michelle gets full custody of Rebecca. Second, he gives up all parental rights. Third, you pay Michelle $200,000 for pain and suffering. Held up my phone. Do those 3 things, and I forget to send this video to the district attorney. It stays buried. Susan's face twisted up. We don't have that kind of money. Trevor gambled it all away. Don't lie to me, Susan. I leaned forward, smiling. Let's talk about the Johnson Family Trust. Account number 847C. The $800,000 your late husband left. Ring any bells? Dead silence. Trevor's head snapped toward his mother like she'd slapped him. What money? His voice cracked. Jennifer stood up slow. What money, Mother? I don't know what he's talking about, Susan wheezed. Susan, I said, pleasant as anything. You got a choice. Pay me $200,000, leaves you with a comfortable $600,000 to fight over. Or I send this video to the DA, the judge, every news station in town, and then I send your account number to the IRS. Your choice. Trevor stared at his mother with pure betrayal in his eyes. You told me we were broke. You made me. Keep gambling. Keep stealing from Michelle. And you had $800,000 the whole time? Susan looked at her children, at the greedy, murderous expressions on their faces. She'd lost everything. Her power, her control, her family. Pay her, she whispered to the lawyer. Excellent. I stood up. 48 hours for the paperwork. Divorce signed, parental rights terminated, cashier's check for $200,000. Once I get all 3, I delete the video. Reynolds nodded like his life depended on it. 2 weeks later, Michelle and I moved into a downtown condo with Rebecca. Sunlight through big windows, clean air, no more fear. Rebecca had her own room with all her books and toys. Michelle was smiling again for the first time in months. My phone rang one afternoon. Crestwood Meadows asking when Bradley would resume payments. Send the bill to his attorney, I said, watching Rebecca do homework at our dining table. Hung up. Michelle looked over from the kitchen. Dad, are you finally happy? More than. Happy. After all those years, all that struggle, everything felt complete. Justice for Michelle, safety for Rebecca, freedom for myself. Crestwood was just a detour, I said. This is home. That's the truth. Carl Mitchell, survivor, father, and finally free.